So when I think about people who are learning fiddle, the thing that I feel like is that I most wish everybody knew and could feel or could experience is that it doesn't have to be painful. And I even think it should be something that we can do. I mean, barring unrelated injuries, it should be possible to play fiddle for a very long time during the day and not have any problems from that. Because there's nothing like, it doesn't need to be a lot of strain. It's a pretty lightweight instrument, and it probably depends some on, everybody's body is different and stuff, but I think that for a lot of people, myself included, there's like ways of playing that will cause pain and injury and ways that won't. And when I was starting out, I was starting to get pain in my neck and shoulders and my hands in the first couple of years, and made changes because of that. And for the most part, I pretty much haven't had any pain since, and I sometimes play for like 8 hours in a day. So the obvious truth about this is, if we can play in like a completely relaxed way with no tension, then there shouldn't need to be any pain. Because if our body, if we have good posture and are playing and our body's relaxed, it should just flow, just like walking or doing any kind of movement that's easy and not impacting any joints or straining anything. And that's basically true. But I guess there's two things with that. One is we often don't do that, even if we're trying to, and it's hard to try to relax sometimes. And number two is, even though we're trying to play fully relaxed, we don't really mean that, because we can't be completely relaxed. If I just completely relax, the instrument falls off me. And so like there's always going to be the slightest amount of tension. It's just the practice is like getting that to as small an amount of tension and pressure as it needs to be. There's a bunch of different aspects, but that's the general principle that I think applies to almost every part of the body. Is like there's going to be a little bit of movement, a little bit of tensing of the muscles, but you kind of want to do as little as you need to make the sound you want. So for example, let's say I play an open string. My hand has the slightest amount of tension on the bow, but it's as little as possible. I'm not squeezing the bow, I'm not gripping it. It's on there, it's resting on the fiddle, so a lot of the tension is unnecessary. Like I don't need to hold it the way I would if it's up here when it's on the fiddle. But there is the slightest amount of pressure, guiding it, keeping it straight in that slot, and just keeping it where I want it and making the tone that I want. There's always a little bit of tension, a little bit of pressure, but it's always as little as possible. So I put it on there, and maybe my hand is tense, and what I want to do when I'm playing or practicing is to constantly be just noticing that and relaxing it. And I'm doing that. I'm cycling through every part of the body, and especially the parts that are getting tight trying to play. But everything wants to be relaxed. I mean, my legs don't have as much trouble with it now, but they're still involved. So, the same thing on the fingers on the left hand. When I don't want to be squeezing those fingers into the fingerboard hard when I'm playing generally. It may be worth practicing that. That's a whole nother topic, is like when you're practicing certain things, you want to like practice all the different possible ways to use the body with the fiddle so that you like build up the language of all the possible sounds, the body language of all the possible sounds you can make, so that your body can just do what it needs to do to make the sound that you're imagining. But you don't, when I'm playing, I don't want to be squeezing hard on the fingerboard. I want just enough pressure to make the sound that I want and no more. And so when I put the finger down, there's like the slightest amount of pressure on the string, and the thumb has to squeeze against the neck of the fiddle a little bit too to counter that. Because if I don't have any thumb and I try to push on the strings, it's like very awkward. And I could, I don't know what would happen. You can't really do that. You have to be squeezing. I mean, I guess there are people who do strange things, but for me, there's like, it's when I'm squeezing it, when I'm touching a string, it's kind of like my thumb is not needed unless I'm touching a string, really. I mean, the thumb does help keep it there, but I only need pressure from the thumb when I'm touching a string. So it kind of like counters that pressure. There's like it's like pinching the neck between the finger and the thumb, but not pinching hard, just the very slight amount of pressure to get the sound. So when I start, if I'm playing an open string, there's no pressure. If I just put the slightest amount of pressure on, it deadens the sound. But I just keep pushing a little further than that until it makes the sound that I want. And but I'm not pushing all the way against the fingerboard. There's not that tight squeezing action. It's just like the slightest little push. And the same with all the other fingers and all the other spots. And it gives more flexibility in the sound, like then there's range to push in a little further, which changes the tone slightly, changes the intonation slightly. So that finger is constantly moving and adjusting and like rotating this, rolling on the string a little bit, the pad of the finger. It's hard to see that with this angle, but like that. There's always little movements going like that to make the sound that I want, but and those are mostly subconscious. But the point that I'm making here is just you want as little pressure as possible while still making the sound you want. And so the left hand doesn't have to be tense when playing. It's like even though I'm holding the fiddle up, I'm not using my neck at all. It's like the hand is holding the fiddle up, but basically the fiddle is resting on this part of the this pad here, and then the thumb is there to keep it from falling off, kind of to like push it again. There's the slightest amount of squeeze going on there, but I wouldn't even call it squeezing. And then there's the slightest amount sometimes of pressure. My hand is pushing the fiddle against my body. But again, that's like, I'm not pushing it all the time, squeezing it into my body. It's like the slightest amount just to keep it there. And as I get better at balancing it here over time, it becomes less and less. And right now I'm not pushing at all. But sometimes while playing, there's going to be a slight amount of pressing the fiddle into my body just to keep it from falling off. If I, don't do that, sometimes it'll do this. And so, occasionally it'll start to do that and I'll have to flip it back up. That's just part of it. So the next, probably the most important point I want to talk about, and this is one that's a little more controversial maybe, just different people have different ways of doing it. And I don't want to say that they shouldn't do it a different way, but I'll just make my case. Is that for myself, I don't want the neck and chin involved at all, really. And this is partly because I'm playing Irish fiddle music and I don't need to do higher positions, so I never need to squeeze the fiddle to get my hand back down. And I'd probably get a chin rest and do that if I needed to, if I was playing that music that needed that. But for the music that I play, and for most fiddle music, it's not needed. And so technically there's no time where I really need to use my neck to hold the fiddle there. And there's several reasons why people do. One is to keep the fiddle from doing this, and that can be mitigated. There's different ways to make the fiddle grip on your clothes or on your collarbone better. And a shoulder rest could be that way. I have a weird setup here I might explain at some point, but it's just grippy stuff on the back that keeps it from slipping as easily on my shirt. It'll still slip eventually, but it's a lot slower than if it was the bare, smooth wood. Yeah, and you could totally use a shoulder rest for the same thing. This is just kind of like a homemade shoulder rest. There's like a pad there to lift it up a little bit, but I haven't liked any normal shoulder rests for myself. I could talk about that more another time, but basically because I have to keep taking them on and off, and usually they're a little higher, like they keep the fiddle up higher than I want it, and yeah, it's just a preference thing. But there's nothing inherently wrong with shoulder rests if you get one that fits where you want the fiddle, in my opinion. But I do like this setup because I can take it in and out of the case without messing with it at all. It's just ready to play. So yeah, you need some way to keep the fiddle on your body. And that could be a shoulder rest or something weird like I have. And some people don't use the shoulder rest at all or anything grippy, and they have to use their chin to keep it there. And that's fine. And I'm sure there are people who could do that without any tension. But I still feel like if you're playing for hours and hours and doing that much of the time, it's going to put some strain on the neck. Like even if it's not like really gripping, you're just kind of resting it there. It's like the neck and chin, at least for my body and probably for a lot of bodies, that's going to be hard on the neck to be like using it to hold the fiddle there. So I do recommend some kind of thing to keep it from sliding off so you don't have that problem. And part of that is just practice. But I think with a bare wooden fiddle and no grippy thing, it's really hard to keep it on the body. I mean, you have to push harder with the hand, which you don't really want to do that either. So I forgot to mention a useful tip here. A friend pulled out a swim cap one time, which is like a really grippy rubber material, and it just happens to be the perfect fit. If you turn it inside out, you might not have to, but some of them are grippier on the inside. You can actually like wrap the swim cap over the back of the fiddle like this. And so it makes this like really grippy thing that just kind of, then you can keep it there. It doesn't slide off. And notice if I take this off, it's just the wood. It just like, I have to like really squeeze it into my body to keep it there. But with the swim cap on here, it's about as easy to put on as a shoulder rest. Boom. It just stays there. I'm like, yeah, even I'm not pressing at all, and it's there. And another handy thing I just realized is you could, like in my case, I want the fiddle to be elevated slightly. The swim cap has this perfect bag basically where I can stuff some nasty kitchen sponges in there. And it'll hold it in place. So then I have like the angle that I want. I mean, I might not need that much sponge, but yeah, butting. That's pretty great. So I bought a bunch of cheap swim caps to give to people when I teach fiddle. The other reason that people use their chin to hold the fiddle, so I talked about, for changing positions, you kind of have to do that while you're changing, but you don't really need to do that the rest of the time for that reason. And number 2 is to keep it from sliding off. Number 3 reason is some teachers teach that it's better to like hold the fiddle like this and not need your hand at all. I'm not doing that right, but if I had a good shoulder rest, I could hold it comfortably with just the chin and the shoulder. And then the hand would be free to play on the strings and do vibrato and stuff without having to hold the fiddle up. And I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's easier to get the arm to be strong enough to hold the fiddle up all the time and to be able to do the things you need to do on it in the long term than for the neck and chin to be on here. It might be easier at first because we're not used to that. Like, it's a balancing act to keep the fiddle there and be touching the strings without the chin holding it. But in the long term, I think that's going to lead to more tension and more strain on the neck and shoulders. And I just wouldn't recommend it. And there are lots of fiddle players, most will have a chin rest. I took mine off just to like practice not using the chin ever. And I still find myself doing this sometimes out of habit, and just like it does when I get tensed up playing something that's a little too difficult. I do that, but I'm trying not to. So yeah, early on for me, I think it was maybe a year and a half into learning the fiddle, I took the chin or the shoulder rest off, and I tried to just learn to balance it on here. And I had to put something grippy on the back of the fiddle. And it took me a couple weeks till I could play as well as I was doing with my chin on there. But I was having pain in my neck and shoulders a little bit when I played, and I was like, I have to do something. I can't have that, or I wouldn't be able to play as much as I want to. So it took a little time. I could barely play at first because my hand, like this balancing thing was just not intuitive right away, but it didn't take too long. And I think it's definitely helped me be able to play relaxedly with the neck free. And I'm still working on like actually keeping my neck straight and like having good posture while playing because of the tendency to do that. But that's something I get to practice, and there's no competition with the chin needing to be used. So yeah, my point there is just if you want to transition to not using the chin to hold the fiddle, so it took a little time for my arm to get strong enough to hold it up for hours and hours. And it still gets tired sometimes, but I suppose that's good for the arm. Whereas it's not necessarily like a good workout to be like doing this. It's more just strain on the neck, I think. It'd be worth doing neck exercises for other reasons, but I don't think that is a very good one because it's not very intentional. It's hard to stay relaxed with it. Hard to keep it in a good position that's not straining it. So yeah, if you like try taking the neck off and say you have a shoulder rest, so it's staying on there okay, this arm is gonna get tired, and it might only take 10 minutes the first day before you're tired, and that's fine. I mean, what you could do is like do that for as long as you can and then start using the chin, and your arm will get stronger pretty quickly. Once the arm is strong enough to hold it for a few hours, then you could not use the chin at all and just start practicing like that. And yeah, like be gentle with yourself if it's really hard to play at first when you take away the chin, because it may feel really weird and it may be hard to play, but it's just developing balance, like riding a bike or something. It will take some time, but it will just get easier and easier over time, and eventually one can play without that and be relaxed, and the balance is there. Yeah, so there's more that I would talk about too, like, so let's say we've got a setup we like, we're not using our chin, we've got something keeping the fiddle on our shoulder, we've got the arm strength, we've got the relaxed hands. Another aspect, well, let's say how to like just practice all this, because it's like one thing to get relaxed in a given moment, but then when I start playing, things tense up because I'm doing too many things at once and I can't be relaxing all the time. So the main practice, I think, when I'm practicing is this like constant returning to it's kind of like meditation or something, like coming back to the breath. It's like coming back to relaxedness. And so I'll be playing and I notice, or just like remember that, because it's just a habit now to like constantly be checking if I'm relaxed. And so I notice my left hand, relax it. Notice the right hand, relax it. Notice the shoulders. Oh yeah, I don't need to have my shoulders like this. I can. So I'll be playing, and it helps to play, more slowly. Play things that are simpler, so you can practice this more easily. It's it's a different thing that you're practicing than the actual tune or the playing of the tune. But I think it's the most important thing to practice. And even if all you want to do is like play one scale or even one note over and over again, and just keep doing that, but then cycling through the relaxing and find a tune that's just real enjoyable to hear. Just play it for a long time and keep doing that relaxing. And what I did at first actually was I wrote down a list of the parts of the body that I wanted to be checking on and relaxing. And then I recorded myself saying like, relax this, relax that, check on this and that. And, it was like 3 minutes long recording or something. And it just went through all the things that I wanted in my cycle of checking on that I'm trying to practice. And then I would put my Bluetooth earbud in while I played or while I practiced, and have that recording playing on a loop while I tried to play a tune. And that helped a lot. Just kind of like for some hours I was doing that, and the habit formed of checking all those things and relaxing them. And it's become more and more a habit over the years. And I'm not done with that. Like, that is still the main thing I practice. Even when I'm playing out with other people, I'm constantly checking the relaxation, checking my hands. And if I'm practicing at home and I play a tune and I get to a spot where I notice things starting to tense up, especially at first it was, things on the left hand where I'm like playing two notes that are right next to each other, or just tricky things with the left hand, it'll get tense. And those are just spots to slow way down and play it and see if I can play it with a relaxed hand. And over time that just becomes faster and smoother, and my hand stays more relaxed. It'll just be an endless journey, because there's always something that's a little more tricky to play that will get it to tense up. So yeah, I've explained why I want to stay relaxed so I can play for a long time, hopefully into my 90s or whatever, and not have any injuries from it. And I want to play for a lot of hours in the day when I want to. And I want it to be something that's good for the body, not like something that I can only do so much of and then I'm wrecked. So yeah, it's like treat it like I'm doing yoga or doing some kind of exercise that's like a meditation, really is the way to think of it. It's like I want hours spent playing the fiddle to leave me rejuvenated and feeling flexible and loose and relaxed. And I think that's entirely possible for most people, probably. I know everybody's body is shaped a little differently, and it will be harder for some just because of the shape of the hands, the size of the hands, or whatever, depending on the music that you're playing to. But there's definitely like some amount of fiddle playing that anybody can do relaxedly, and I bet almost everybody could do it being fully relaxed most of the time. So I talked about why, and I talked about the different parts of the body that want to relax. There's the arms as well. And, part of this all is I'm trying to learn and practice good posture as well, so that I don't get back pain and so on. And that can be done as part of this. It's all the same practice. I'm trying to practice breathing through my nose instead of my mouth as well, so that's another thing I can practice while playing. Just keep my mouth shut, not when I'm making the video. And then, some tips for just how to practice that. It's worth probably making that recording for yourself and putting it in the ear while you play. But either one way or the other, you want to be cycling through those things and just practice. But it's not like, I am playing when I do that practice. It's an enjoyable experience playing. It's just the constant coming back to relaxing. And yeah, and I talked about the reasons for why different players use the neck to hold the fiddle, the chin, and why I don't think that that's necessary. And I'd leave it to, everybody can decide for themselves what they want to do there. But I would strongly recommend trying it and giving it a good, honest try, because I think it's worth it. It also means one can sing while playing eventually. Anyway, I won't go into that more right now. So I think that's good for now. Enjoy relaxing.